Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com. Life's a beach with Mulligan's Pharmacies. Open late on the Dunmore Road and in Tramore.
Good morning and welcome to the show. We have a busy show lined up this morning. We're going to be talking in a minute to Ken McHugh, who's joining us from Dublin, and he is involved with Sport Against Racism in Ireland. Recent issues that have been brought up locally and nationally, and how can people react and, I suppose, deal with issues as they happen. Any thoughts, please text or WhatsApp us to 083 3333 975, or you can call Audrey on 051 846 123. A lot of the topics we covered yesterday, people sent in more texts about it. One lovely text that came in, we were talking about grandparents looking after grandchildren and some grandparents not being allowed access to grandchildren. Lovely text came in. Damien, I want to please give a massive shout out to the best dad, but most importantly the best granddad ever, Billy Briggs. He retired from Waterford Crystal after nearly 50 years 2 years ago, and then he decided he wanted to take on the role of part-time carer to his 6-year-old granddaughter when I went to work. They have the best fun ever. I never take it for granted, but he always says he wouldn't have it any other way. That's a lovely, lovely text. A lot of texts in also about the interviews with David Cullinan, with Tom Murphy, with Elaine Fenley, and we're going to be following up on that later. We're also going to be following up on Fine Gael in town today. As you know, Pascal Donoghue, you heard it on the bulletin there. We're going to have a chat with Sinead Ahern, our news reporter, on the latest on what he is saying, if he's making any promises for Waterford. He's also down to discuss the bullying allegations. As you know, the government's US envoy, John Deasy TD, made allegations to say that there was bullying going on in Fine Gael and the party locally over the years. And Fiona Dowd, who ran for election locally, she also said it. And here's what she had to say over the summer about it.
I, for one, didn't, because I felt completely intimidated by the mood of the meeting and by what had happened previously in the meeting. We were then asked to show of hands as to disagree with the motion, and nobody put up their hand. I didn't put up my hand because I absolutely thought that we would be attacked.
And those allegations are going to be investigated further on today. As you heard the other day, Maurice Cummins was completely exonerated from any bullying allegations that he faced. So the other issues are going to be addressed later on today. I believe there's some meetings taking place during the day, and also a big meeting tonight in Dungarvan. Pascal Donoghue will be attending a big Fine Gael meeting down there. We want to know your thoughts and views on that. Firstly, we've got Ken McHugh on the line. Good morning, Ken.
How are you?
Wonderful, thanks, Ken. Wonderful. What's the weather like in Dublin? Is it as nice as the tropical southeast, huh?
Yeah. It's the sunny northeast up here.
Ken McHugh, you're involved in Sport Against Racism Ireland. Just explain to our listeners, what is Sport Against Racism Ireland? What sort of a body is it? Who is it affiliated with? Who does it represent?
Yeah, well, we set up in 1997. That was the European Year Against Racism, and it's a long way back. Basically, it fundamentally uses sport to combat racism and other forms of discrimination, but also to use the medium of sport for cultural integration and social inclusion. That's our mission, and we're a volunteer-driven organisation with charitable status, and we're part of the international bodies, Street Football World, and other international bodies as well. So we've got an international as well as a national brief.
And we were on to the GA yesterday, and they have a diversity and inclusion officer, and somebody just recently appointed. We're going to have her on the programme later on today or maybe tomorrow.
Great.
The GA,
Geraldine McTavish is her name.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. It's great to have her on board, because I sit on the GAA Games for All committee, so Geraldine is going to be really busy around the country with every parish in the island of Ireland.
And it's great to see organisations taking this seriously, and also then doing something practical about it, because it's all right sort of having these theories on paper and having this thing, but unless you put it into practice, unless you actually get out into the community and talk to people about things, I suppose that's one of the things you probably felt maybe a bit frustrated with over the years, that this lack of engagement, or how would you assess it?
Well, exactly. It's all about our grassroots organisation. engage with all of the sports bodies, of 50 odd of them around the country. Obviously the most popular ones will be football, association football, and GAA. But we work with cricket as well, and any of the games that will help to integrate people into the community and build intercultural competence among the community at large. And that's what the mission is. But we have some specific programs as well. Like one we have is deals with bullying in schools. It's called Football versus Discrimination, and that's funded by UEFA, by the Children's Foundation. So that will take up an awful lot of time and effort, but sometimes it's very hard to see the results because there's been a whole spate of incidents there recently, and we also have a huge problem in social media with the people using those platforms.
We'll come to that in a second, and also want to give out your details. Like, I presume there's a website for you if people want to find out more about this and find out more about the methodologies. Just remind me what that is before, in case we don't mention it later.
It's SARI at www.sari.ie.
SARI.
SARI. And we've got it next week, the 14th, next Saturday week. We have the big soccer fest in Dublin, so you'll probably hear more about that in the next beginning of next week.
Okay.
So
now,
we've got teams from all over the country playing, particularly teams from direct provision centres.
When you hear of racist abuse and somebody says something on the sideline, so let's say there's a black guy, black girl, whoever it is, playing. It may not be black, it could be a traveller, whatever the case may be. When you hear of racist abuse, the first thing is one, the person who's actually perpetrated this, who's shouted this out, who is abusing somebody on the field. Why would they do that? When you're understanding, why would they do it? Like, we're not born racist.
No, exactly. Yes, and if it's learned, it can be unlearned as well, and we worked very hard at that. Like, in terms of the education side of things, to make sure that the people are basically understanding and not intolerant. And you get people, like, obviously anger on the sideline, and a lot of it is directed at people with different skin colour, but there's also sexuality and disability as well. They're the three main areas of bullying and discrimination that we tackle.
Yeah, we had a good discussion in here and work about this during the week, and one of my colleagues was saying, like, abuse is abuse. It doesn't matter if it's racist abuse or if it's sexual orientation abuse. Abuse is abuse.
Exactly.
And by us even talking about it and mentioning racism, does it give a sort of a platform for those that maybe want to be politically motivated to promote this thing? But you have to, if there's racist abuse, you have to mention that it's racist abuse, don't you? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. Referees now, for example, in soccer, if there's an incident on the sideline or on the pitch, it has to go into the referee's report before any action is taken. And a lot of referees are caught up in the game, and they don't even know, they don't never hear anything from the sideline. And it's an awful lot of trouble as well. It has to go through a whole series of the local club, the association, and the county league, and then up to the FAI, and it can take ages. And there's a whole slate of reports gone over the years in the FAI. Nothing has happened. In the GAA, it's a little bit different. There's an awareness. The mentors, for example, can take action and then report it to the head office in Croke Park. If it was directed at a child under 18, it's sent to the children's officer, the child protection officer, and we also get a copy of that on the Games for All. We'll be aware of it, the Games for All committee, and actions taken there.
And what?
Disciplinary action. Yeah,
we've an interesting scenario down here in Waterford where there was a game there last week and an under-15 match. So again, that fits the criteria for minors in terms of under 18. Yeah. And this woman allegedly racist abuse of a player on one of the teams. Now, she's not a member of any of the clubs involved. She may be related to somebody playing, and she was in the ground. What happens there? For example, we're trying to ascertain if there was a reference to it in the referee's report. So if there was a reference to it in the referee's report, the GAA would deal with it in a certain way, but can they deal with people that are not members of their organisation?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Like if you look at the clubs, for example, the big clubs like the professional clubs where spectators on the sideline who are not season ticket holders are member of a club, they can be banned for life in some cases from attending the games. It's all about identifying the person. As I said in that GAA incident, the mentors of both clubs will have to come together and discuss the situation, and then make the report. And the person who allegedly abused the player would have to be sanctioned in some way. Probably banned from the attending games, or we've done that in the past, and it's been very effective. I was talking to some GA members during the week, and I'm a member of a club myself, and they would say, well, sure, in 6 months' time, he or she, if whoever is banned, might be able to just walk in the door or walk in the gate. It's up to the club, obviously, to say, sorry, you're banned for 5 years or whatever the case may be. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you have to be vigilant. We've had good cases before where, and also it depends on the levels of believe it or not, of racism, where somebody might shout something referring to the person's colour. We would take them aside and work with them, and as I said, it takes time and effort to do that. But show them the errors, their ways, and they just sometimes it trips off the tongue with a lot of people, and it's a matter of getting them into a corner and saying that look, it's wrong, and don't do that again. So that might work, but generally speaking, if people are convinced racist, they should be banned from the sidelines. Absolutely. Yeah, because obviously it's an evolving situation. We're talking about different scenarios here, and we're talking about individuals, and you may have, as you say, a particular one shout out or one thing. Do the clubs have to make a complaint if the referee doesn't, or can it be another member of the public? Because some members of the public, somebody standing beside somebody shouting out that sort of stuff, you might tell them shut up or whatever, and you might get abuse yourself for that. That's what happens. That's what happens, because you can feel you feel very uncomfortable about it. So you can see what people, and somebody might say, let somebody else make an official complaint, because once you make an official complaint, you're going down a certain road, aren't you? Yeah, that's right. We have we're part of the European Network Against Racism, the Irish branch, and we have it's a mechanism called iReport. So they can, when they get home, for example, they can get online and file the report there, and then DNA or take it from there. We also encourage people, if it gets like that, to go to the guards and report it as a. I know we don't have hate crime legislation in the Republic, but not effective one anyway. But to report to the guards and say, look, there's racist abuse being for other people at this game, and this is the person, blah blah blah. So it is possible in terms of the report, as I said, and the guards, to take it, basically as a crime. Yeah, because racism is a criminal offence, isn't that right? Yeah. So, go on. Yeah, because the mechanism to charge somebody is extremely difficult. Because that's what I was just going to say. Go on. Why is it difficult? Why is racism not considered a hate crime? Right. Okay. Because under the Incitement to Hatred Act, the person, the third party, has to be convinced. Has to be incited to hate the person of the second party. So the first party, second party, third party is extremely difficult. I think we've only had 4 or 5 convictions since 1990 in this area. How many? But in the north of Ireland, in the UK, for example, in the north of Ireland, it's taken very seriously, and there's a completely different and much more fluid mechanism to deal with the cases. How many people, how many convictions did you say since 1990? I think it's about 4 or 5. 4 or 5? Yeah, that's all, yeah. Should there be hate crime on the legislative books in Ireland? Absolutely, yeah. We've been calling for that for years because under, for example, the Belfast Agreement, we've been saying that they create the level playing field for policing should include what we call the McPherson report, which is the resulted after the Stephen Lawrence affair, the murder of Stephen Lawrence, and that's in the north. Like the commissioner now that we have, was very active in the north of Ireland on hate crime. So we're hoping that he will influence the change in legislation down here.
It's amazing when you think about it, Ken, that legislation is not in place. Like we have,
it's crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
We have a sizable.
We've been working on this for years, and
yeah,
University of Limerick, the hate and hostility unit down there, produced some really good stuff, and the ENAR. So all the research material and the mechanism to enact this is in place. We're just waiting for the doll to get the finger out.
Because a number of people are texting in, Damien, if I was at a match involving young people and must have witnessed racial abuse, I'd report it to the Garda. Racism is a criminal offence, but as you say, proving that under the current legislation is quite difficult. Just one other brief thing. Bill, he's a taxi driver. He's Irish. He says the government have created a lot of problems with racism in the industry, he thinks, by telling customers that they can pick and choose whether they get into the next taxi at a rank or not. He says a lot of people in Waterford even are skipping getting into taxis with coloured drivers or black drivers by their own choice. He says they shouldn't have this choice. It can promote racism. What do you think of that? Yeah,
shocking. That's horrible to hear. Like in Dublin, we actually have black and white ranks. To talk about apartheid, it's shocking that the O'Connell Street rank is a white rank, the one in College Green is a white rank, and then there's black ranks and mixed ranks. It's unbelievable, and the guards turn a blind eye to it because it's too much trouble to sort that one out.
So the taxi drivers, by their own admission, create these ranks.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, absolutely.
And what happens if the
rank system should work in? You go to the next taxi available to you, but we've had lots of problems with it in this area.
And what happens if a black taxi driver pulls into the so-called white rank?
He loses the air in the tires. That's what happens.
The what?
Seriously, they usually let the wheels down. Yeah. It's horrific. It's horrible. That's one of the big areas that we've been through the network against racism. We've been fighting this for years.
I can't believe that I hadn't heard that before. Yeah.
That's a regular one. Yeah.
Is there major problems in terms of educating people? Like we've had growing numbers of minorities into the country. You talk about Polish people, you talk about different nationalities, then you talk about coloured black people, you talk about the issues then on travellers being designated as their own race as such. Is there a problem?
They're being given, they're members of the human race, but being given ethnic status.
That's what I mean, the ethnic status thing, yeah. Is there a problem with educating people?
Huge problem, absolutely. Jesus. There's a big problem with xenophobia, this fear of a foreigner coming into the country, taking our jobs and that. And then a lot of people hear the Trump thing and the Johnson thing, and they listen to this, and then the social media as well, and whips up a huge amount of negative attitudes. And, our job, and it's very difficult because we're not funded by the state. All our funding comes from outside the state, like as I said, FIFA, UEFA, and these other bodies help us in the programme. But we're all volunteers, so it's a struggle. So to get down to the schools, it takes a huge amount of time. And then you're trying to get into how do you get a slot in the school? Do you do it in the RE where they might, religious education, where they might have a 2-hour slot, or PE, which they might have a half-hour slot. So it's really extracurricular we're talking about.
Yeah, a number of people texting in, racial abuse by a bully is the worst abuse of all. Another texter, Damien, I wonder, are we gone overboard with this PC? Lots of it is only just banter. Again, that's a thing that you might hear. That's a thing, yeah, I'm sure you've heard that lots of times, Ken, have you?
Yeah. I remember doing an interview along with a rugby player who said, it's only banter. He might call me a thick paddy or a thick Mick or a stupid paddy, but so that's only dressing room stuff, crazy. He didn't even know. He didn't realise that he was receiving racist abuse.
And here's another thing that comes into it again. This is another difficulty, because somebody's texted in and say, I only choose local taxi drivers because I've had such bad experience with non-national taxi drivers. Like, a local taxi driver may well be a black taxi driver. So the person is, now this person says this has nothing to do with racism, just because of poor service. But like again, that's a blurring of the lines. That's a ridiculous. I can see where the person's coming from in the way they're putting it, but at the same time, that's just.
Yeah, it's shocking to hear that. That they actually police themselves, and the guards stay away from it and won't act on it. And that's not just in Dublin; it's in other cities as well. But that's a job that we have to do to counteract that. But it creeps in all over the place. Like for jobs, for example, a lot of our young people in soccer nights and hijabs and hat tricks, we have employability program, and we work with the kids and the youngsters on applying for jobs with CVs. But once you see a name, like it's got a name that says, say, Abdul or Amina, they're invariably, they might be Muslim, so they're rejected, and then skin colour comes into it as well. So, it's crazy. Like, you can't even get into an interview situation. And a lot of them are doing very well in school. They're coming out with leaving certs, but can't get into jobs. So that's it. Because we have a duty of care for these kids, because they're part of our programme. We help them in trying to through an employability programme. That's actually funded by the UEFA Foundation for Children as well. And the new one we have is working with FedEx.
Ken McHugh, Sport Against Racism Ireland. Again, the website SARI.ie. And listen, if you're down this way over the next while, will you give us a shout and hang on to my number? And we'd like to.
We're actually going. I was looking at the talking to my colleagues there. We have a team travelling around the country, and we have the fair weeks coming up, anti-racism weeks in October, November. So we'll be down in Waterford at some stage. So I'll give you a shout when we get there, yeah. Please do, and it's my first time chatting to you, and I really appreciate it. And the information, the information you've given out there is really important. And Ken, thanks very much. Yeah, sure, no problem. See ya. Thanks. Ken McHugh there, Sport Against Racism Ireland. Texters, I can't believe what I've just heard on the radio. Black and white separate taxi ranks. I'm shocked. It's back where this country is going. Why are people trying to create an apartheid system in Ireland that took years in America and South Africa to eradicate? Shame on the people that support this, says Carmel. On a different issue about abuse, I live in the Lisduggan Larchville area. I'm an OAP with mental health problems. I'm being constantly verbally abused by one individual in a local shopping centre. It always happens to me when he's two or three friends with him in a particular place. I'm at my wit's ends. I've asked him to stop, but he has continued. Damien, what about the child who's been racially abused? He must have been mortified. A lot of people texting in about that. Keep your texts and comments coming in. 083 3333 975 051 846 123. We are going to be talking about your medicines, and if you're taking particular types of medicines, are you worried that those medicines may not be available as soon as November because of Brexit?
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's. Did you know you can collect your Blue Club points online? See mulliganspharmacy.com.
Now we're going to be talking to the head of the Irish Pharmacy Union in a second about your medicines. Firstly, we have something more pressing. Talking about pressing. Paul Lennon, good morning.
Good morning.
Irish Daily Star Soccer Correspondent. You don't want to talk about medicines and Brexit, do you, Paul?
Yeah. I think it's a bit beyond
your pay grade. We'll talk about pressing. We'll talk about Ireland pressing this Swiss team. Were you at the Swiss press conference yesterday by any chance?
I didn't actually make it myself. My colleague Mark McCann.
Yeah, I don't think you missed much because the reports on it, there was a lot of people getting lost in translation. We have a horrendous... horrendous is maybe overstating. We have a very, very bad record against the Swiss, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. We haven't played them too often, but the last time, a few times competitively back in the early to mid-2000s, we lost twice and drew twice with them. And ironically enough, the last game of the Mick McCarthy era, of his first year in charge of the team, ended with a 2-1 defeat at Lansdowne back in 2002. So, yes, it hasn't gone back prior to that years ago. We have beaten them on a number of occasions.
Yeah.
They're not world beaters, but what they are, they've got 3 or 4 good, decent players. Zaka from Arsenal, Shaqiri for Liverpool has opted out of football at the moment, which is good news, international football for us, because I think he's a potential match winner. He's an outstanding player.
Yeah, people may know Republic of Ireland playing Switzerland tonight in the Aviva 7:45, and on that Swiss team, we'll talk about Ireland in a second. On that Swiss team, you have some really good technical players, and they talk about teams having technical players, and the Eastern Europeans in particular. A technical player, for those that don't know it, is somebody who can get the ball on the ground, pass it and pass it and pass it and pass it around us. Like Rodriguez plays for Milan. We have this guy playing for Borussia Dortmund. We've got Mbubu playing for Wolfsburg, Mönchengladbach. They have a lot of players playing at very high technical levels in really good leagues, like in the Bundesliga, don't they?
That's it, and particularly at the back, as you said, Rodriguez from Milan and Fabian Schär from Newcastle, who's emerged as a really good, one of the best defenders in the Premier League in the last few years. So there's no doubt, and that's reflected in the results they've got to. Since the start of this millennium, they've qualified, I think, for all but 2 World Cups and European Championships. So they're consistent. They don't progress very far when they get there, but they have that consistency that we haven't had over that same period. So it's going to be tough this evening, and they play a possession-based game. Although there's a little bit of pressure on them, despite what Mick McCarthy said yesterday, I think, and then to go for a win, because they are training, but they dropped 2 points at home to Denmark in March to do 3-3. So I think there's a little bit more pressure in them than there is in us.
In the great classic phrase of Irish soccer, would a 1-1 draw be a victory?
I think Mick McCarthy said it twice in the last few years. He'd take a draw, and it would keep our momentum going in terms of not losing to either the 2 other big rivals, the Danes or the Swiss. And I think it also reflects the fact that we don't score many goals. We've only scored 5 in 4 games this qualifiers, and last year we managed to score 4 goals in 9 games.
I think you're being kind there to the Irish team that we don't score many goals.
Now, on the flip side of that coin, we have Callum Robinson, who's emerged at Sheffield United and last season Preston, who is, I think he's going to be a big player for Ireland in the next few years. He's only 24. There's a bit of a spark and dynamism about him that we haven't had for a while, since Robbie Keane came near the end of his career 6, 7, 8 years ago. So I think he's potentially a match winner for us. And also David McGoldrick, who's if you talk about technical players, he's our technical player in attack, and he's a very clever player. And him and Robinson play at Sheffield United together at the moment. And I think that could be good for us. For us, actually. And
Stevens, like we do a podcast from here as well about the soccer, just promoting that now. It's called the False Nine, and like to have 3 Sheffield United players, more than likely starting tonight in the Ireland team, to have 3 players from one team and 1 Premier League team. That hasn't happened for quite a long while, and that could be the making of it. Like, you look at what Stevens and Robinson did at the weekend against Chelsea. They broke down that left. They attacked Azpilicueta. They went for that sort of, and they were able. It makes a big deal when you're playing with somebody week in, week out. You know their movements, don't you?
It is, absolutely. And even though Robinson only joined a relatively short time ago, a couple of months ago, he's a clever player, and he obviously played alongside McGoldrick for us last year, and would have trained with him in the last 7 or 8 months. So it can make a difference, and I think they complement each other. The 3 of them complement each other. Stevens is now, I think, going to get the recognition he really deserves, because when you're playing in the Championship, you do get some of the spotlight, but he's been playing really well for a few years for Sheffield United. He's an attacking wing back. He's got pace. He's tough as well. He's a good defender, and he puts in a good cross, as you've just mentioned there. It was his cross that led to the Robinson goal at Stamford Bridge last week, and it was a really quality cross, and it wasn't the only one he did during the game.
Yeah.
So he's now emerging as one of the best left fulls or left wing backs in England. And
McCarthy will look at getting the best out of those tonight, and that's one thing that he does have. McCarthy's fairly good at getting the best out of players.
He is, and there's no doubt about it that the motivation is there. There's a good spirit in the camp. You know, the rug was pulled from under the feet of this team almost 2 years ago when the team was hammered 5-1 by the Danes in Land.
I was there. Yeah,
you were there, and it was. Last year the team laboured. It did its best to get going again under O'Neill and Keane. It was never going to happen because I think it was winded to a point where it just couldn't recover. The last few months we've seen the team regain that spirit, that verve, and that ability to play for the common cause. So I think that respect, our defence is good. I think we have a good chance of at least getting a draw time. Do we have that extra little spark up front to win it? I think we could certainly score one goal.
Yeah.
Will we get two? I'm not so sure we'll get two.
And again, we can't go without mentioning any player that gets his 50th cap for Ireland. Hendrick, playing with Burnley. He does well with Burnley. He plays well. Burnley play a particular style, which a lot of people do not really like. But again, Sean Dyche gets the most out of his players. Hendrick has been a good servant.
He has. His form dipped a bit last year for a while with Burnley, as it did with Ireland. 2017, late 2016. But in the last few months, he's played better for us in the green jersey. He's back in a more central role, which he prefers. And he's got a bit to prove now because he hasn't this season. He's been left out of the first team at Burnley, so I think he'll be fresh. He's fully fit. I think you'll see a big game for him tonight, and it's important for him to deliver in midfield because with Whelan, who sits slightly behind him in central midfield, obviously Glenn does never had much pace, is even less now because he's 35. But him and Hourihan, we need a bit of pace, a bit of verve to push through the middle and cause the Swiss problems because they did concede 3 goals to the Danes a few months ago. So I think that the Swiss are vulnerable. They're a good technical team, but I think they're vulnerable at the back.
And finally, Frank Ryan has just texted in, none of our centre forwards have any international goals between them. 4 centre forwards. That's an interesting stat if he's right.
Yeah, that's it. And although McLean will play as a wide left attacking player, more or less a striker. So at least he's got 10. No, it's a good point by Frank, and I think just psychologically it'd be good if one of the either McGoldrick or Robinson managed to get a goal tonight.
Yeah, I think I still reckon Duffy or Keogh a header last minute.
It's from a step, yeah. I think that you could be on the money.
Listen, Paul, lovely to talk to you again. Thanks very much. Enjoy the evening, okay? God bless. Thanks, Paul. Paul Lennon, Irish Daily Star Soccer Correspondent. Thanks, Frank, for your text. Damien, great to see so many Premier League players in Ireland's squad. A win this evening looks likely, says Niall from Dunmore. Damien, regarding the issue you had about racism, I have a lad who has ginger hair and often gets called names, especially from foreign kids when playing soccer. Would that not be a form of racism? Damien, every regional capital should secure the headquarters of all public services, and Waterford should be the case that it's not happening. Disappointed to hear JP Phelan WLR to saying he'll do everything in his power to secure Garda headquarters for Kilkenny. This parish pump politics really sickens me, says Paul. We are looking at getting another Fianna Fáil deputy. Well, I know John Paul Phelan's Fine Gael, a Kilkenny deputy, Bobby Aylward, on the programme just after 11 to talk about that. So send your texts in about that. Now we're going to talk about medicines in a second.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com. Mulligans, we are closer to you.
You can make it soul, make it real, make it rock, make it blues, make it bounce, make it hip hop.
For selection, for value, for free parking. More and more shoppers are travelling to the Waterford Shopping Centre.
I'm Sarah, Passage East. Probably once or twice a week after school. I love all the shops that are here and Mulligan because I get all my makeup and stuff there because it's very good value.
With Tesco, deals, Mulligans, lifestyle sports, travel creations and Costa Coffee. It's all under one roof at the Waterford Shopping Centre, Lisduggan.
Oh yeah, there's Costa here, so that's nice and 100% very friendly down here.
The great value shopping centre.
It's time to deal with the elephant in the room, Brexit. Whatever type of business you have, whatever the size, if you trade cross-border, you need to prepare for Brexit. And Intertrade Ireland has easy small steps online that will help get you ready. So if you only do one thing today, just search for Intertrade Ireland Bite-Size Brexit, where you'll find quick practical steps and funding available to prepare you. Intertrade Ireland Bite-Size. Get your business Brexit ready.
Healthy lessons for all the family with Catherine Foley, Lismore Park Life Pharmacy, Waterford.
Vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, helps keep the body's immune system healthy. As the days get shorter and darker, you may need to take a vitamin D supplement to keep the bugs at bay.
This September, talk to the team at Lismore Life Pharmacy Waterford about the 3 for 2 on selected vitamins and other health essentials. Life Pharmacy. Live better. Together.
TaiChi Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's. Did you know you can collect your Blue Club points online? See mulliganspharmacy.com.
You got that power over me, my.
Now, welcome back to the programme. That last ad leads us in nicely to Darragh Connolly. Hiya, Darragh.
Hey, good morning, Damien. Thanks for having me on the programme.
Not at all. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. You're president of the Irish Pharmacy Union, also of Haven Connolly Pharmacy on Main Street in Dungarvan. The possible stockpiling of medicines in the context of Brexit has been in the news in the last week, especially Grove, the British minister, has been talking about that 2/3 of medicines coming into Ireland come through UK ports or airports. What's the situation from the Pharmacies Union, from pharmacists? Is there stockpiling going on, Darragh?
No, there's no stockpiling going on, Damien, and there's no need for it either. Look, in the broader context, Michael Gove is going to say those things because Michael Gove wants a particular outcome. So he's, trying to scare us a little bit here, as everybody's trying to scare everybody else about Brexit. Brexit is a huge concern to Irish pharmacists. It's a huge concern to everybody in the country for lots and lots of different reasons. But we've known for quite a long time that it's coming. So the Irish Pharmacy Union, Irish pharmacists have been working hand in hand with the Department of Health and with the Health Products Regulatory Authority to plan for the different scenarios that might happen if there is whatever variety of Brexit that might happen. And what we have to be agreed on is that nobody knows what's going to happen. And that includes Michael Gove, Boris Johnson and Michel Barnier. Nobody knows what's going to happen as we see, the extraordinary scenes come out to play in British politics. But what we do know is that from time to time medicines do go short, whether it's to do with Brexit or anything else. And what we have is a very robust system by working together as stakeholders, as pharmacists, as doctors, as patients, as the Department of Health, as the HSE, HPRA, all the people who are involved in that. The ultimate aim of that is to get the right medicine to the right person at the right time. So we do have robust systems in place. So the planning that we're doing around Brexit now is not going to involve stockpiling of medicine because that's not needed, because we have robust supply chains.
Okay, but sorry, Darragh, we're in a scenario, obviously, that nobody knows what's going to happen. And let's presume that there's going to be some kind of a deal, okay? And then you're going to be able to work things out. But also then, let's work on the scenario. And the government has been saying this, and the Minister, Simon Coveney, had a 4.5-hour cabinet meeting there only this week about the Brexit readiness. So should pharmacists not be at least looking at the potential to stockpile because there may be some particular medicines that could run short?
One of the things, Damien, that, exactly, and you're dead right to play out that scenario, and let's just say, say you were to come into my pharmacy and say, you should start stockpiling. And I go, which ones should I start stockpiling? As soon as I start stockpiling, that medicine then is sat in my pharmacy and it's not in the supply chain anymore because it's in my pharmacy. So it's nearly in a way counterintuitive to say that we should be stockpiling because we don't know what to stockpile. And then the only way that you can guarantee that something isn't in the supply chain is when you take it out of the supply chain. What we would see as members of the European Union is that we are part of a market of 500 million people as it is now. So say the British leave, and then that goes down to 4. We're still part of a market that has medicine for 450 million people. So we might have to transition through having medicines that don't come through Britain into Ireland to supply Ireland. But what I can tell you is to be able to supply 5 million people out of a market that is 450 million isn't as big a deal as it might seem, that exactly like that the well is going to run dry. The well is not going to run dry, and we also work with the European Medicines Agency when it comes to licensing drugs in Europe. The other thing that can happen, and people listening this morning will know that from time to time a drug can go short. So there was a drug went short called valsartan there about maybe 6 months ago. But what we were able to do as pharmacists, we were able to change the drug that people were on within that therapeutic group, because let's remember that pharmacists know their patients really, really well because they see them at a minimum once a month. And then we're the experts in drugs. So if we know that your valsartan has gone short, we can change you within that therapeutic group. So that may come to pass, that we will be able to use our expertise as pharmacists, that if something does go short, which can happen from time to time, with or without Brexit, that we can help people get their medicine.
Yeah, but again, we're potentially in a situation that has never happened before. So you're talking about scenarios that have happened up to now and continue to happen every now and then. But for example, if there's a medicine that is not being able to get through the port of Dover because of backlogs, you can't just sort of ring up the phone and say, oh, by the way, send us in a plane load of stuff from Paris or from Lisbon or whatever. Like, there are supply chains, as you say, but we just don't know what's going to happen. I know you're trying to reassure trying to reassure our listeners, but do you know what I'm saying?
Where I suppose where the reassurance comes from is that then, as you try to plan for a scenario that may or may not happen, is the best way to plan for it is to say, well, what is the time that something that was closest to this happened? So the example I give you there about valsartan running short is the last time that something ran short, and what did we do to make sure that everybody got a medicine that they needed to get a really good outcome from their health. So what we were able to do with the guidance of the HSE and by working with the local prescribers in Dungarvan, for example, where I had people that we couldn't get them their valsartan, I was able to make contact with the GP and say that the recommended drug when you can't get valsartan is losartan. And we were able to change people from one drug to the other. So look, I would love to be able to say that we have anticipated every single scenario that could possibly happen from Brexit, which would then change tomorrow morning depending on the mood of Boris Johnson when he wakes up. What we can do is to reassure people to say that we have a really, really robust system of cooperation between the regulators, the licensing authorities, the drug companies, the wholesalers, the pharmacists, and the prescribers. And that's the best reassurance that I can give people.
Liz has just...
Also then,
sorry, one simple question, Darragh. Liz has just phoned in to say she, for one, is concerned about access to insulin for her diabetes. She says some insulin is made here in Waterford, but shipped to the UK for packaging and then sent back.
That's right. And, do you know, there will be specific instances where people will be able to say, it's made here, it's going there. When we see supply chains and, you know, when you think of the fantastic employers and the fantastic companies that we have in Waterford in particular, in the southeast in general, making medicines, we could start to, you know, list off who they are. It is very, very rare that something start to finish is made in one country and supplied into that country. So she's absolutely correct. But what I can reassure her is that for every diabetic in Ireland who is using that particular insulin and gets it from their community pharmacy every month, there are millions like her throughout the European Union. That medicine will be licensed in the European Union as well as it is licensed here in Ireland. So it's not as if the well will run dry just because we can't get it out of Britain. We will, if it comes to it, be able to get that out of Europe.
So you can reassure people here this morning that are ringing and texting in to say that they won't have a problem. You can categorically say that.
The reassurance that I can give you and the listeners, Damien, is the reassurance that I have got from the Department of Health, from the European Medicines Agency and the Health Products Regulatory Authority. That's one aspect of the reassurance that I can give you. The other aspect of the reassurance that I can give you and the listeners is that when medicines, as they do from time to time, have run short, pharmacists have really rolled up their sleeves and found ways of getting the next best alternative medicine for that patient, and we've actually managed to do it very quickly. And a lot of the time, the work that we do, we probably don't go on enough about it to say that, look, we put a lot of work into this, but we now have had a seamless, no interruption in the therapy that person needed. Damien, I'd love to be the guy who can come on the radio and predict the future and to give absolutely 100% reassurances to everybody about everything, but I can't. But what I do want to stress is how hard pharmacists, as we represent and represented by the Irish Pharmacy Union, are working with all those stakeholders, but most importantly, working with patients that we see millions and millions of interactions that happen with patients in pharmacies every day to reassure people, and that is the best way. What we don't want to do is that there be any panic, that there be any stockpiling, because that is the only thing I can assure you of, is that drugs will run short if people start to stockpile on a whim.
Darragh, thanks for talking to us.
My pleasure, Damien. Thank you.
Thank you. Darragh Connolly, President of the Irish Pharmacy Union. Pleasure as ever, and the very, very best of luck over the next few weeks, Darragh, for anybody involved in supply chains of medicines or anything like that.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. Blue Club rewards from mulliganspharmacy.com. Spend a little to earn a lot.
Now, welcome back to the programme. Number of texts coming in about the medicines things. Damien, I was on an eye gel for 5 years. It went short and no supply. My pharmacist, Brian and Phelan's, got me a generic alternative. No bother. So I would say, trust your pharmacist. That is the main thing that we need to do, says this person. Trust your pharmacist. Damien, regarding racism at football, hurling or soccer matches or anything like that, if players are getting abused, why don't the rest of the team walk off in protest? That is one of the ways to sort this out. We've had that issue raised up before, and there are talks people do that, but then you have the issue that they may lose the match, they may lose the points and all that sort of stuff. So that's one of the issues that have come up, not only in Ireland but also in places such as Italy, where some players suffer racist abuse. Now, I'm going to play a little clip of Simon Coveney. This is about the bullying allegations that are being investigated today. Tom Curran, the Secretary General of Fine Gael, is down in Waterford with Pascal Donoghue, and they're going to be interviewing people about this. This is what Simon Coveney had to say about it recently over the summer.
I suspect that Tom Curran and the team in Fine Gael headquarters are dealing with this and will deal with it speedily. And then people like me and others will need to be in Waterford to rebuild morale amongst Fine Gael membership so that we get our party ready for a general election, which is going to happen at some stage in the next 12 months. Waterford is a really important constituency for Fine Gael. It's a big priority for us in government. And we have good candidates and we need to get behind them and focus on pulling the party together rather than divisions. So there's going to be more information on that later on today. Also, we want to know your views on a story that's in the papers today about a national school has gone to the High Court to try to keep a violent 8-year-old boy with ADHD out of its classrooms. The court heard that the boy had assaulted both staff and fellow pupils on numerous occasions, including one incident where he repeatedly punched the principal and hit a teaching assistant with a hurley before punching her too. Other children had to be locked in their classroom for their own safety, the court was told, and following the final assault, the court heard the boy was expelled. However, after an appeal by the boy's mother, the Department of Education have ruled that he must be allowed to start back in school on a reduced timetable. The school have applied to have that decision quashed. So the matter is going to be mentioned again in court. We want to know your views on that. Whether you think the school is right with that, or obviously the parents are in a very difficult situation, and the poor boy with ADHD in a very difficult situation. So it's a difficult situation all round. Damien, I'm taking a blood pressure tablet and the brand I'm taking is in short supply at the minute. But the pharmacist at Coughlan's in Carrick told me there are 2 different generic tablets. No joy at the minute, but he told me another brand might suit me, and he was on the ball. So trust your pharmacist there again, says this person. Stay with us. We are going to be talking to Kilkenny TDs about why they believe the new Garda headquarters should be in Kilkenny.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com. Life's a beach with Mulligan's Pharmacies. Open late on the Dunmore Road and in Tramore.
Damien, says this texter, there's ferries to France, from France to Ireland and Spain to Ireland. We don't have to go through the UK anymore with shipping. Damien, another disingenuous statement from pro-Brexit MPs on the telly and on the radio this morning. For example, Apple in Cork. A considerable portion of their components transit through Southampton to Cork. No issues foreseen, just the trains, change in transit procedures and a change in customs procedures. That's from Patrick Quinn. We are going to be talking on Monday to John Dawson about that and the specific things regarding customs. Now, with the news at 11, here's Liz. Liz?
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com. Life's a beach with Mulligan's Pharmacies. Open late on the Dunmore Road and in Tramore.
Now, Bobby Aylward, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Thanks very much for joining us, Bobby.
No problem, boy. Glad to talk to you any time.
No problem. Your first time talking to me here. I know you from a previous existence, and I know you'd normally be on KCLR because that would be considered your local radio station. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's true. But a lot of people in South Kilkenny listen to Waterford radio as well because
that's great.
A lot of people tune in because maybe geared towards Waterford as much as Kilkenny, shopping wise, etc., etc.
No, they only tune in to listen to me, Bobby. Come on now, to be honest. That's all.
And wish you the very best in your venture as well.
Thanks very much, Bobby. And the reason I mention that is because localism is one of those things that can be very, very positive and they can come into it, but it can also be detrimental if it doesn't fit in with national policy. On this particular instance, you believe 100% that the new divisional Garda headquarters should be in Kilkenny. Why?
Yeah, well, Jamie, look, I'm not going to get into a big fight about where the new divisional headquarters is going to be.
Well, I'd like to get into a little. I get into a little fight about it because you've said categorically you want it to be up in Kilkenny.
Well, naturally, being Kilkenny and representing the Kilkenny constituency, what else would you expect me to say? Yes, I think Kilkenny would be geographically best placed because of the three counties involved, Waterford, Kilkenny and Carlow. I think headquarters in Kilkenny would make sense then, as I said, geographically in the vision that is to be centred in between the three counties involved. But again, if it is in Waterford or in Carlow for that matter, I'm not going to start throwing a fit on like that. Once we have good policing, community policing, and more people, more Gardaí on the beat, that's what I want, and so that's more important than where the headquarters is placed.
Okay.
But again, naturally, I would be fighting for Kilkenny, and sure, I'd be a traitor if I didn't say that and look for that.
See, that's one thing about you, Bobby. Over the years, I know you. You're quite honest with that, and you're quite honest with your reason for saying it. And you've hit the nail on the head. You've said, what else would you'd expect me to say? And you'd be a traitor if you said otherwise. So you're calling it out as it is, and you're basing your call to have it in Kilkenny purely because you believe you would lose votes if you didn't say this.
Well, I didn't say I'd lose votes. I mean, I presume, again, I come back to the reason why if the new commissioner is this a new proposal, new commissioner, he's saying this is a modernising the police force, that they're going to be divisions, divides and lessen. And he said he's taking more Gardaí away from deaths and putting more Gardaí out on the beat, what we all want, prevention of crime. And then, okay, you're coming down to the local issues of where the division headquarters will be. And I still think, personally, besides votes, I still think that Kilkenny would be the best centre because it's more central to Kilkenny, Waterford and Carlow, which are the three counties responsible for this headquarters.
Okay. Can I ask you, Bobby, in terms of the dynamics of this and specific policing requirements, I've spoken to a number of senior detectives and senior officers in uniforms in Kilkenny, in Carlow and in Waterford about this. From a policing perspective, the Garda station in Kilkenny at present is too small. That's the first thing. To move a divisional headquarters, many of these guards feel, even the ones in Kilkenny, feel that it's just a step too far at present. Wait until you get a big Garda station in Kilkenny if needs be. Try it in Waterford first. And again, I'm not coming from a localist perspective, I'm coming from a policing perspective, because you're looking at going all the way down to Youghal Bridge, for example. This division is going to go. The roads between Carlow and Kilkenny are a lot better, and you have the experience of Waterford being a divisional headquarters now and up to now. So from a policing perspective, have you investigated these particular aspects?
No, and again, as I said, I accept everything you're saying, and Waterford was the divisional headquarters for many years, and is up to now, and I accept that, and I have no problem with that. Incidentally, is the Garda station in Waterford big enough for this new proposal? I don't know. I haven't looked into it, as you said.
Yes, as far as I know, it is. That it's a lot bigger than Kilkenny. I know Kilkenny was done up there recently, but it's still not big enough for this divisional headquarters because it is a divisional headquarters already. You see, that's the thing.
Yeah, well, I accept I accept that was put forward. Again, my understanding, what I'm hearing in the grapevine, again, I have no proof of this. I've been contacted a few times and I have nothing from anyone concrete or from a minister or from anyone else or from a political point of view that they're going to, but my understanding is that the Commissioner's talking about a new divisional headquarters, completely new on the Greenfield site. That's what I'm hearing in the grapevine. Now, how long will it take that to come to fruition, I don't know. Again, I don't have someone that I haven't any proof of. Again, I'm not going to start, if the divisional headquarters is based in Waterford, I'm not going to, as I say, kick up around and start shouting.
Yeah, but
I'd gladly accept it if the Commissioner of the day accepts that it should be in Waterford and then says it should be in Waterford. I'm not going to fight that. As I said, there's other priorities in the police and not about the where the headquarters is based, and that's my motto. And if it's based in Kilkenny, I'll gladly welcome it, and gladly because it's opposed to Kilkenny City, and I'd be glad to welcome it there. If it's in Waterford, I still won't have any begrudges over that.
I know what you mean, and I'm not getting into a row with you on this again. I'm arguing in terms of
You're trying to create a row here.
Not at all. Geez, I'd never do that, Bobby. Not at all. No, I've just had Agnes texting in to say, Bobby is one great man, empathy he's got. It doesn't matter what colour jersey you wear. You should have been the leader of the country many years ago, says Agnes. So there you go. Pilltown listener, I'd say.
I keep that under my hat all day here.
But what I'm arguing is a very serious point, because another texter is saying, annoyed listening to you, because again, the parish pump politics that the Healy Rays would espouse, she believes that this is what you're going on here. And I'm looking at the criteria that you, as an elected representative, and I'm not getting at you at this, but it's incumbent on you as an elected representative that represents Carlow, Kilkenny, voters across the constituency, but has your base in South Kilkenny. And you need to find out the criteria that would fit best for this particular aspect. And if you found that Waterford fitted best for the specific policing criteria, because you said to me just a few minutes ago that that's what's important. And it is what's important.
But you make it sound as if I had the decision. This decision will be made.
No, but you have power. Yeah, you have power and you have influence, Bobby.
Well, I read yesterday by a minister saying he had no influence on this. This was a proposal coming from the Commissioner, and a new system that he's put in place completely in the garbage economy. No, you have to listen to me. I mean, this has been discussed at my party, has been discussed with Fianna Fáil, has been discussed in the Dáil, has been discussed anywhere whatsoever for an input. The statistics you're talking about, I haven't even heard of these statistics. I mean, I presume the Commissioner of the day will make the decision on all this information that you're speaking of now, and that he will make the decision what's right for the police force in this division. And I'd say no politician will have any input in that.
Bobby, Deputy Aylward, you know as well as I do, a lot better than I do, that politics comes into everything.
Yeah, okay, but again, I said I've not been contacted, and I haven't contacted anyone personally. I haven't even gone to our own chief super here in Kilkenny about it. I was going to ring him to know, who I know personally, to know what is going on. But I said I might be interfering in the police work, and the negotiations are going on at the moment. So I said I'd hold my powder dry. Now,
yeah, okay.
You're the first media that was on to me about it. No, you're not the first media that was on to me about comments. And all I said is so far is that if between the three counties, Kilkenny would be my preference because of geographical spread and
because of votes.
If there's other reasons for it to be put in Waterford and they are overriding every other factor, then I won't have any problem with that.
I understand, yeah.
And that's not playing parochial politics.
No, I can see where you're coming from, yeah. And again, I'm not... like a number of people texting in, you're a real gentleman, you work very hard, go easy on him. And I am going easy on you, Bobby, because I know you over the years, and you're well able to argue your point, and you argue it very well, and you're honest enough to say if it goes to Waterford. What I'm saying to you is I think it's incumbent on all the elected representatives to find out the specific criteria and what would be good and bad. So for example, somebody's texted in to say you're talking nonsense. For example, if you look at the map, Waterford is actually more central in terms of taking West Waterford into account. So you have to take West Waterford into account, Dungarvan especially, all down the west, along with... So if you just had sort of Carlow, Kilkenny and Waterford City, then you have Kilkenny geographically in the centre of that, but you have to take West Waterford into account. So there's issues there that come into it, you know?
Well, Damien, you're talking about you're making an issue about where the headquarters going to be placed and all this and central law. But what I'm saying is that this shouldn't come down to about parochial politics, whether from Kilkenny, Carlow or Waterford. This should be about the future of policing and the best system we can put in place, and the more Garda we can do fighting crime. When drugs, the scourge of drugs, we have assaults, we have rural deprivation, rural isolation. We have all these issues that are out there, and we shouldn't be arguing about where the headquarters. We should be arguing about the best policing of our areas, and that's what we should be talking about. And if it comes down to the Commission's decision that it should be placed in Waterford or in Kilkenny, I have no problem whichever way. I will actually be looking for it in Kilkenny if I had to say, which I don't think I have, because of my geography where I'm representing, and that's all I'm saying.
I understand.
And as far as I'm concerned, if someone has raised a red flag that's not there at the moment, has the decision been made yet? And if it is, why fight over parochialism instead of talk about the future police of our region?
And I agree with you on the point that we shouldn't be arguing about this. It should be based purely on policing. The problem happens is that politicians know that the systems that we have in place allow for politicians to have an influence. So, for example, the representations that certain TDs in Carlow, Kilkenny might make to the government, to the minister, to say this should be in Kilkenny. The reason it's important, Bobby, is that if they decide to centre it in Kilkenny, there will be a new divisional headquarters built in Kilkenny, which will provide jobs for Kilkenny, which is great, which is fabulous. And it will then allow for more guards to be in Kilkenny, which again may have an influence in terms of helping restaurants, places in the town, they're going for lunch, and then the perception will be in Waterford that Waterford is losing out, that Kilkenny again is taking from Waterford. So, do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to create an argument here with you, I'm literally stating the facts. That's why people are raising this issue.
Well, can I say why don't we all be magnanimous and just stand back and leave the Commissioner of the Day decide on what's to be? Now again, you're saying politics has an influence. A Minister of the Day and a Minister from Kilkenny yesterday, and from what I heard him saying, was that he had no influence whatsoever, and the government had no influence whatsoever on this decision. Now, if you have something that proves different, I haven't heard of it, or I haven't been contacted, I haven't no correspondence whatsoever about this decision. Only through media. Okay. And my understanding is that if the Commissioner of the Day is going to make the decision and there'll be no political influences, and from what I see of this man so far in his administration since he took over the Commissioner, is that he will do the decision without influence or political influence, and that's my understanding. If there's political influences and it's influence for Kilkenny, well then you can go back to me and ask them questions and I can plead guilty or not guilty. Fair
enough, fair play to you. Finally, when's there going to be a general election?
Well, I thought all along that there'd be one, because I think the government of the day, which is a disaster government, would face into 4 by-elections. But now I'm beginning to change my mind. Brexit, of course, is the white elephant in the room. While that's ongoing, the good of the country has to be considered first, and the future of the country, probably the biggest decision that we made since maybe the World War or since we independence is Brexit. And in fairness, so far, politicians of this country has treated how serious it is. I'm beginning to think now it'll be next March to May.
Yeah, that's my feeling on it as well. I don't think it's going to be this year. And Brian Cody to stay leading Kilkenny?
If I know Brian Cody, I don't think the man that he is, I don't think he'll go out after getting a 14-point defeat in the All-Ireland. I think the man would go out with a feather in his hat rather than covering his face. I don't think, if I know Brian Cody, he's nothing better than a challenge is what he likes.
Deputy Bobby Aylward, it's a pleasure as ever talking to you. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, Damien.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deputy Bobby Aylward, Fianna Fáil TD in Carlow, Kilkenny. Damien, why not move Dublin, Galway and Limerick to the centre of Ireland? Move everything to Athlone if that's the case. Damien, why not use the famous Ferrybank shopping centre as a new regional headquarters? This technically would be in Waterford and Kilkenny. Thank you very much, Tony. Damien, when it comes to elections time, I hope people will remember what's happened to Waterford in the last 10 years. It's hard for us to get anything. That's from Christy. How come the university locations are not geographical locations, says another texter. Good point. It's going to Kilkenny. The deal is done. Simple as that, said this texter. The people of the Déise need to wake up and smell the roses. We keep putting them in there. We need more independence in Waterford sooner rather than later, said Barry. So Barry's making a political point on the basis of some issue that hasn't happened yet. There are 5 cities in Ireland, says this texter, and Kilkenny is not one of them. So the headquarters should be in the major cities. Damien, Bobby is a real gentleman and he works really hard. Go easy on him. I did. We had a good old chat, Bobby and myself. I like Bobby. Damien, everything going out of Waterford. Kilkenny TDs are looking to Garda headquarters move to Kilkenny. Where are our TDs talking about this? Damien, can you explain the advantage of having a Garda headquarters in Waterford as opposed to in Kilkenny? What would it make a difference with? Damien, utter nonsense from Mr. Aylward. If you look at the map, Waterford is actually more central. Damien, Waterford is the capital of the South East. The headquarters in Kilkenny would make absolutely no sense at all. Also, Waterford is on the coast. Kilkenny is landlocked. Geographically, it would make absolute sense to have it in Waterford. Kilkenny people should stick to the hurling.
It's a whole new conversation. Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's Pharmacy. Over 60 years together. Thanks to you.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's. Did you know you can collect your Blue Club points online? See mulliganspharmacy.com.
Now keep your texts and comments coming in. 083 3333 975 051 846 123. Damien, Bobby made a mistake. Kilkenny is not a city. Do you think Kilkenny's a city? Text us in, please. We'd like to know. Sinead Ahern is on line 6. Hello, Sinead.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
Wonderful, thanks, Sinead. Thanks for joining us this morning, because I know you're very, very busy there in town. Pascal Donoghue was in City Hall and Michael Walsh, the city manager, was making a presentation about Waterford into the future, and Pascal had a few things to say. We heard a little bit about what you had to say there in terms of your report and what Liz read out. What's the important things that Pascal said this morning, that Deputy Donoghue said, the Minister for Finance?
He said that he reiterated that the North Quays development is the type of project that they want to make progress on. He said that further funding will be made available and he wants to see it happen. Now, member-elected representatives, there was TD Mary Butler, Senator Paul Lennon were there, and they pressed him for a timeline. Now, that wasn't forthcoming, but he did say, regardless of what happens with Brexit, that the government will continue to invest in our future. So he did reiterate that the North Quays is a project that he wants to see happen, and they're optimistic that they will be able to make progress on that and on things like moving the railway station from its current location over to the North Quays. Now, he is on his way over, I think, to the North Quays now at the moment to visit the site. He will also be meeting with representatives from the Chamber of Commerce, and then he'll be visiting some social housing developments in the Lacken Road and another one in the Kilbarry area. And then later this evening he will be meeting, there'll be a number of Fine Gael events taking place. So
he hasn't said that the North Quays will go ahead. He hasn't said the government will give this money at this particular time and this is how much we're going to give.
He didn't give a timeline. He said there will be more funding available, but he didn't say when that will be.
Okay. There was one tweet I saw there from Darren Skelton, I think, saying there was wasn't all the councillors weren't present at the presentation. Was there a big attendance?
There was about 10 out of the 32 present this morning.
Right, so that is
quite a low attendance.
Quite a low attendance, yeah. Sinead Ahern, we'll let you follow it up. Listen, Sinead, thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Damien.
Thanks, Sinead. Sinead Ahern from our news team there. Now we are going to talk about an issue that is going to be important for Waterford over the next few years as well, is the tidy towns. Gerald Hurley, who is the Chief Executive of Waterford Chamber, and Michael Garland, Waterford Tidy Towns Committee, they're going to be meeting Pascal Donoghue. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning Damien. Morning, Damien.
Thank you for coming in to us. Michael Garland, Waterford Tidy Towns Committee. Gerald Hurley, Chief Executive, Waterford Chamber. Michael Garland, fresh back from your cycle nearly around the world, Michael.
Well, round Ireland, 2,160 kilometres. But good to be back in Waterford and good to be launching this Tidy Towns initiative tomorrow. So we're delighted. It's a big collaborative effort, and I think that's something we need to look at for Waterford. Maybe another conversation, but the business group, the Tidy Towns, the Chamber, Gers here and the Council have all got together, rowed in behind this new launch, this new charter for businesses in Waterford. And as chair of the Tidy Towns Committee, we're committed to hopefully winning it within the next 5 years. Our first application will go in next year. This is the start. This is getting businesses involved. We'll then roll it out to get residents' associations involved and so on and so forth.
We'll talk about the specifics in a second. Gerald, why has Waterford City never done as well as, for example, Kilkenny and other comparable centres of population? I know Kilkenny City is a bit smaller, but like in terms of the points, is it just the geography of Waterford?
That's a very interesting question, because that's where we started with this, and we looked at other cities and towns to see what could we learn from them in relation to, I suppose, pride of ownership, pride of place, and how can we try and introduce and influence that in Waterford. And after looking at these we had a kind of in our own mind what needs to be done, and it all hinges, as Michael said, around collaboration. Waterford City Council are at the core of all of this, but Waterford City Council can't be expected to do everything. People need to take responsibility. Michael and I spoke about this, and the Waterford Business Group and the Waterford Chamber and Waterford City Council decided, well, let's the three of us together as groups, interested and representative bodies, that we'll try and bring this forward.
And specifically then, what action plans have you come up with?
Well, just before that, there were a number of initiatives taking place in Waterford. You had the City in Bloom, a wonderful initiative. You had Tom Murphy from Tom Murphy Car Sales with his initiative on the big cleanup, and where he had tremendous support from the GA clubs. So you had community and you had businesses already coming together. So there was clearly an appetite, and so the next stage is to get all the businesses to buy into this and take responsibility themselves. Then encourage communities through schools and local communities to get involved, all under the banner of the Tidy Towns.
Are you trying to reinvent the wheel, Michael Garland, or are you building on what's there already and looking at a different format to try
I suppose in terms of that analogy, the hub was there, and what we're adding to is all the spokes. There's lots of things going on in the city that need to come under the Tidy Towns banner. So, for instance, the committee is made up of members of the Chamber, the Waterford Business Group, Tommy Ryan from the festivals. We're bringing somebody on board from the cultural quarter. So there's lots of things going on. And what we wanted to do was not reinvent this wheel. So, for instance, Harvest Festival, which is taking place tomorrow and over the weekend, they will be launching initiatives under the Tidy Towns banner in terms of recycling and making sure people who have got stalls are doing the right thing to keep our city tidy. And what we want to do is to reach out to all the things that are going on and banner them under this wonderful Tidy Towns banner. It's something everyone can get behind and something that everyone actually physically recognises. And I suppose Ger's right, it came out of the City Centre Management Group, and we sat in that and said, no, this group is responsible for putting pride of place back in this place. I've been here 19 years and I see Kilkenny and what it's about. And no matter what's going on in Kilkenny, the troubles, the problems with retail, they always give this impression it's the place to go and the place to come and see. Waterford should be streets ahead of that. I've said that for years. And Tidy Towns is perhaps the banner to do that under. We start with the businesses, get all the businesses involved. Businesses who sign up to this charter to keep their shop fronts clean and their premises tidy will get a plaque and a scroll to display on the wall proudly to say, I'm supporting the Tidy Towns bid. That'll then filter down through their staff, it'll filter down through their customers, and then we'll get this spread effect right the way around the city. And let me tell you, no city has won Tidy Towns, and that's our ambition, is to do that within 5 years.
Within 5 years, no city has actually ever won the Tidy Towns shirt. Can you do it?
I don't see any reason. Excuse me. I don't see any reason why we can't. And it's in the spirit of collaboration we are doing it. I think if it was left up just to Waterford City Council, it would be quite difficult. If it was left up to the Chamber, we'd find it quite difficult to bring everyone on board. But when we have certainly the initiatives that have gone before us, and the organisations that have actually bought into this, I mean, our members are supporting this. They are actually going around the street already, getting more people and recruiting more people to get involved with this, as are the business group and Waterford City Council are fully supportive of this as well. In fact, the banners along the quay, Waterford City Council have given over these to the Tidy Towns group to look at an initiative where possibly we'll be able to advertise businesses and in turn raise finance as well and funds for improving the appearance of the city centre. And another initiative that the Tidy Towns have already got engaged with is this a competition for improving shop fronts and keeping shops clean. There was a tremendous response from the retailers in town in relation to this.
And under this new initiative, are we looking at retailers and businesses? Do you need money from them?
No. We need their participation. Things like the banners, and that's all about animating the city. And our shop front is our entrances, and I know there's a lot of social media goes on about improving their design. Under Tidy Towns, we can push that. We can push all these issues and agendas. We can find grants for them. We're looking at a refill project, not just putting taps in, but maybe securing grants to have a walk around the city where you can refill your reusable cup, but not just a fountain and a tap. Have something sculpted that looks good. And the banners down the quay, having them saying you've arrived at Waterford City, that can even improve from the train station, what you see as part of Tidy Towns, part of City and Bloom across the bridge. So through Tidy Towns, we can be creative and make the city this place that we all want to see, and this city that we can all be proud of. And that's the important thing. Pride starts at home, and the people of Waterford, they need people and projects they can get behind. Tidy Towns is a simple tick of the box. People can get behind it.
And this week we have been covering those topics in the way that we've been interviewing Tom Murphy. We've had Elaine Fennelly on from Crystal Valley Tech. We've had David Cullinan on. So this discussion about whether a glass is half full, a glass empty, positivity, negativity, it's difficult sometimes to get the balance between those messages. But the Tidy Towns is effectively getting out there and doing something about it. Is that what you're saying, Gerald?
Absolutely. And more importantly, it's getting people to take responsibility themselves. I mean, if you're at home and you're walking home and you see a piece of paper on your footpath, you'll pick it up. There's no reason when you're in town outside your own premises you wouldn't do the same thing. And it's trying to get people more focused on what the outsider and the visitor to Waterford sees when they come into the city, and certainly to make the city centre a more attractive place to visit and to live.
And I think that's important. It's that sense of ownership that we need here. It's seeing somebody down on the quay, on the boardwalk in the river, and a dog doing whatever it has to do, not picking up. You stop that person and say, hang on a minute here. This is my city. Pick that up.
We had a massive discussion during the summer about dog poo.
Yeah.
And one of the problems is that you say something to somebody and they'll tell you to politely go away.
But we have to be brave at that, and you have to be brave to do that. And people need to show leadership. I've stopped people around the city centre, young lads shouted at me, and maybe it's because I shout in a broad Scottish accent and it becomes broader when I'm annoyed that people listen. But if you shout at people and genuinely say, they will pick it up. I shout at youngsters round in John Roberts Square who are simply sitting next to a bin and drop something on the ground. That's not acceptable to me. It shouldn't be acceptable to them. If we drive a pride of place in this city, things will change, and they'll change very quickly. But everyone has to take part in it. All 47,000 people who live in this city and around the city need to have pride of place, and that's what Tidy Towns is about.
Do they react positively to your inducement?
Well, they certainly pick it up, yeah. Maybe I should shout more.
Gerard, this is starting, this is launched. People can get the information on the website. They can go to the chamber as well.
Yeah, we're doing a soft launch. We haven't got the social media sorted out yet, and because we wanted to put the building blocks and foundations in place. So what will happen now is once this is launched tomorrow, we will start creating social media around that. We've been very careful in not going out and telling people about things for the sake of telling them. The committee want to get things right and do this properly. We've done a clean and a planting in Spring Garden Alley, for instance. There's talk about all sorts of wonderful little nooks and crannies we can create urban gardens with. So, for instance, New Street Gardens, all those lovely plants and foliage in New Street Gardens. We've got an idea to take them into residential areas, replant them in residential areas, and create wild gardens around them. So that's the kind of thing we're looking at.
You're going to be talking to Pascal Donoghue. What have you got to say to him? It'll be generous.
We've invited some of the larger employers from Waterford in to address their concerns and, I suppose more importantly, the opportunities for Waterford, certainly in light of Ireland 2040 and some of the projects there, and just, I suppose, to reinforce our commitment to making Waterford a great place to live, work and do business.
Michael Garland, Waterford Tidy Towns Committee, Gerald Hurley, Chief Executive Waterford Chamber, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Damien, at present, there are 8 people walking near where the old silos were. I think that's Minister Paschal Donoghue is one of those 8 people at present. Damien, the Waterford Tidy Towns people need to travel no further than Tramore to see the wonderful work Anne Cheesty and her group of workers have done and continue to do. Pure hard work, that's what needed. Damien, the Chamber is located in one of the most run-down buildings in the city. They should lead by example. Damien, can you please ask Michael and others to get onto the council about the state of the city at present? No proper signage on the approaches, weeds sprouting at the entrance to Carriganore. Look at the state of the area next to the tower at Castle Street. At the moment, 3 of the 4 ornate lamps on the steps of the Bishop's Palace are out. The head is missing from one of them. You have to lead from example from the front. The council aren't doing enough on this. Damien, Dungarvan has made great strides over the years and is looking really, really well, says this texter, and that is one of the interesting points on this. Damien, I'd say John Paul Phelan is behind the whole issues regarding trying to get the Garda headquarters up in Kilkenny. Kilkenny's not a city. There's only 5 cities in Ireland. People in Kilkenny would want to remember this. Damien, it looks like Waterford will lose out on the university and the Garda station, and he said let the politicians do the deal, give Kilkenny the Garda station and give Waterford the university. Now, we've had a very considered and good text in from Eric Furlong. He's the vice chairperson of the County Board Nanogue. As you know, we've been covering this issue in the last few days about an alleged racist abuse, attack, assault in a match. Here is the message that Eric has sent in to Jennifer. I'm going to read it out now. Incidents at the under-15 hurling quarter-final on the 26th of August between Portlaw, Ballyduff and De La Salle have been under investigation since the 28th of August. Disciplinary sanctions have been imposed in relation to playing infractions which occurred during the game. A disciplinary investigation in relation to a subsequent alleged disruption to the game by a supporter are almost concluded, and a meeting to finalise this investigation is to be held tonight. Board Nanogue has had the full and frank cooperation from both clubs throughout, and the board would like to thank those involved for their assistance, and we look forward to the conclusion of this matter and our semi-finals, which are scheduled for the 12th of September. We would encourage the public to go out and support the next generation of Waterford hurlers in their locality. But please always bear in mind that the players are children, the mentors are volunteers, and the referees are doing their very best. Give respect, get respect. That is from Eric Furlong. So what we can confirm in that is that the investigation has nearly concluded. There has been and is an ongoing investigation into the alleged abuse, the racist abuse, and that is going to that'll be finalised at a meeting tonight of Board Nanogue officers. You heard it first here on Déise Today.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's. Did you know you can collect your Blue Club points online? See mulliganspharmacy.com.
Now, welcome back to the programme. Damien, regarding the Tidy Towns Committee, they should visit schools and hopefully encourage children to have pride in their city. That is from Marjorie. Now we're talking about pride in lots of different aspects of life. Frank Kennedy, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Damien.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
You are with the New Community Refugee Men's Shed located in Ferrybank. Marianne Heaphy, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Miss Ying, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
What's your first name?
First name, Ying, Y-I-N-G.
Very good.
Thank you.
And we have, who else do we have here?
David.
David. What's your surname, David?
Mutebi.
Lovely. Thanks for joining us, David.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks very much for coming in. Appreciate it. Frank, explain to us, please, what's happening. This is a series of craft courses running for refugees and different people that are seeking asylum.
We've set up, with the help of Vincent de Paul, we've set up a men's shed for refugees.
in Coffee House Lane in Waterford, actually Waterford City Centre, not Ferrybank. And the idea is we act like a big brother to these refugees. We get to know their strengths and their challenges and so on, and then guide them through the process of getting work or training or something, which is massively absent, you know. So we have the support of 7 or 8 artists who are going to offer their skills completely free to the public, completely free to us, but they're going to offer their courses to the public. The public will pay, and all of that money goes towards training courses for refugees. Practical things like forklift driving, like barista training, small engine repair and so on. Really practical stuff that they wouldn't normally know even existed.
And I'll come to that in a second. Marianne, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us why you've got involved in this.
I run a furniture upcycling business and have done for the last couple of years in Waterford. I've been running workshops now for a few years all around Ireland, and they are just hugely enjoyable, and I can see how they would fit in with the men's shed perfectly. I run them in Waterford on a constant basis, so to be able to help out and run them in a different way to help others is kind of what brought me to Frank. Upcycling is just something that is so popular at the moment in all walks of life, whether it's furniture, fashion, anything like that. So it was just a nice fit. It's nice for me to be able to do it outside of the normal 9 to 5 work I do in upcycling. So it's just my little bit to give back to the community as well.
I want to talk to David and Ying in a second. I'm just going to take these quick ads. Hang on for a second there, folks.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com. Life's a beach with Mulligan's Pharmacies. Open late on the Dunmore Road and Intramore.
Now, we're joined, as I said, by Frank Kennedy. We've got Marianne Heaphy, we've got Miss Ying in, and we have got David in as well. We're talking about this new community refugee men's shed that has been set up. Firstly, a couple of texts. Just wondering, any information on the water supply in Cherrymount area being cut off? I don't know. We'll find out about that. Damien, Kilkenny's a city since 1609. Waterford listeners can check it out. And it is a city. On the charter it says that. And that's why I said in my chat with Michael and with that it is a city. Kilkenny is a city. Damien, it didn't happen at the quarter-final. It happened a week earlier and they had to play the quarter-final a week later. They're looking into the wrong game. No, I think he mentioned the 26th earlier, so I think that's right on that particular one. Now, TaiChi.
Yes.
What is TaiChi?
I think the TaiChi is about, it's a very, very Eastern way to think about the world. And it's about the body and nature, between body and nature, the balance. It's all about breath, in my opinion.
So TaiChi, people have this opinion that it's just physical movement, but it's not. It's a connection between the brain and your spirituality.
Actually, more about your minds. And the movement actually follow your minds. So it's about body, muscle memory. It's not just about that kind of movements. It's about you can calm down yourself and you can breathe and follow the nature, the natural stuff, I think, in my opinion.
And why is TaiChi good? What makes it good?
I have learned TaiChi about 10 years, I think. And at the beginning, it's very, the people of city all about hurry up. But after I learned, I think it's about sometimes you should let yourself slow down. Let yourself follow up your thoughts, not that quick, not up outside world. So I think it will help you calm yourself down and to negotiate you and the nature.
And will you be doing TaiChi with people in this scenario? Yes.
Yes. And
you think this will be important and this will help?
I think it will help some people if they can accept a certain way like us. Not, I don't think I will help everyone because it's about you understand, or sometimes you don't need to understand right now, right this moment. Probably you will understand later. That's about you just learn and study and every day, actually, day by day. That's thing.
David? Have you tried TaiChi?
Not yet, but I'm looking forward to try it.
You're looking forward to it, yeah. Marianne, are you a TaiChi person yourself?
No.
You'll have to give it an old go there.
I think I will. Although, to be fair, I'm not a bit stressed, so it's grand.
Frank, you'll have to give the old TaiChi an old go.
No, I'm not stressed. I just cause stress.
You don't have to be stressed, as Miss Ying says. It's all about just that balancing. David, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes, my name is David, and I'm a student in WIT studying community education and development. And since I met Frank, I find that it's the good place where I can come and work together as a community and bring my other friends who are still want to be in a community, because there are many people here in Waterford who are not used to integrate with the other people. So in so doing, I bring other people to New Many Shed and we can work together.
Because Frank has mentioned it, and we'll talk to Frank in a second about it, it's making that connections. And there's so many different people and groups that can feel isolated.
Exactly.
And how important is this development to bring people together?
There are many people, like the asylum seekers, who have experience which they have not used it outside. But when they come in the mini shed, we can see what they have, the skills they have, and we can develop it. And there are even some who want to go to the college and they fear, because English is it's not their first language, it's their second language. But when we integrate together, we can see what he or she can fit to do in the college in the future.
Marianne, I see you nodding there.
I absolutely agree. I think arts and crafts are a fantastic way to integrate people into the communities, especially, as you said, English may not be their first language. They may not speak English at all. So arts and crafts is very much doing and seeing. So it's something they can really get involved in without the worry of whether they speak the language or not. And then they get comfortable and they may start, picking up little bits and pieces, and that builds confidence with them as well.
Frank, it seems to be like one of these things that when it's set up and everything is going well, people will say, this should have been done years ago.
Yeah, I think they say that even about the traditional men's shed. Why wasn't it done years and years and years ago? And I suppose it takes wealth and education and new ideas to break old habits, And of course, this idea of a new community, that's what it is. This idea of direct provision is something new in our community, and we are trying to grapple with it, Now, if we don't integrate these people, offering education and training, they become a massive resource. If we don't, the opposite will happen, Now, people would say, like, from the coffee house lane, if you take a 5-minute walk, you'll come across a sushi restaurant, a French restaurant, Italian restaurant, a whole range of them. No one would say these shouldn't be here in Waterford. And it's the same with these people. They will bring great skills, a new way of thinking about things, but we have to integrate them. And integration means allowing them to participate in the community. They don't want handouts. They want to participate. They want to give back,
And they want connections.
They want that friendship, which is all we can do in the men's shed, is offer this big brother friendship, which is vital, The artists come in and offer something else, because along with the paying public, all refugees who want to participate do so free. So there's a level playing field, Besides the fact that the men's shed teaches woodwork skills anyway, in a kind of in a happy, English-speaking, relaxed atmosphere,
If somebody wants to help out or get in touch or to find out more about it, where do they go?
Well, if they're interested in upcycling, or the ceramics course, or the woodworking course, or the stained glass course, or the painting a masterpiece, our artist has a painting by Paul Henry, which is owned by Waterford Municipal Gallery here, and he's going to replicate that, probably sell these fakes online. We have ceramics, and we have an afternoon We've basket weaving, of course. We've mirror etching. We've knitting and crochet, TaiChi, as Ying has said. And we have art for kids on a Saturday afternoon. And if they want to, if they're interested in any of these, email newcommunityms@gmail.com.
newcommunityms, all one word, @gmail.com.
Perfect.
Super. Frank Kennedy, thank you for joining us. Ms. Ying, thank you for joining us. You're very good.
Thank
David,
you.
thank you very much. Good luck with your studies. And good luck very much, Marianne, with that.
Thank you.
Fair play to you.
Great.
Now, thank you very much, everybody, for your contributions this morning. Thanks, Jennifer, for producing. Thanks, Eric, for that text about that incident. Also, we've had a call from Irish Water. The water is off until 4:30 in parts of Cherrymount. Kilkenny is a medieval city, not classed the same as Waterford, Cork, Limerick or Galway and Dublin, says this texter. Join us after tomorrow for more, and also Jeff is up next. Thank you very much.